every culture is different, and they all got their own thing going on, you know. And I honestly believe that's why when the world was created, whenever God created it, I believe mine did, but you can believe yours did. That's fine. Whatever created it put everybody in their own little world. You know, they put all the Asian people in one part of the world, they put all the whites in another, and all the blacks in another, you know, and all the Arabs in another. And people just existed for a long time. And it's like, people have known about other people for a long time. You know, the Romans knew about the Arabs, and I'm pretty sure they knew about the Chinese even, and vice versa. And people got along for the most part. And they traded, and then they stayed in their lane, you know? They stayed in their own world. And, you know, fought each other, and once in a while they'd fight each other, you know. But for the most part, the world got on. And technology, for all of its wonders, it's, you know, done scientifically and medically. It's made it so that people have to, or at least can, get together now. You know, in the last couple hundred years that the Industrial Revolution's been going on, and freedom of travel and ease of travel has been a lot easier. Then people have been really just now having to start learning how to get along on a mass level. When you think about it, you know, yes, people have been interacting for a long time, but for the most part, you know, it's been, people have had their own little spot in the world for a long time, besides a very small number of mixing and stuff, and racial, you know, people experiencing in other races was a very, you know, niche thing for a long time. And just recently in history has it been otherwise, and we see a lot of strife from that. In the West, we see a lot of strife, you know, taking on peoples that don't always jive or want to jive, you know, and the growing pains with that. And I'm not saying anything against any culture or any certain, you know, thing. It's just, you know, all people suck, if you ask me. You know, anybody is capable of the worst shit. But just some people do it more than others, that's all. And, you know, history is no liar when it comes to that. You know, white people have been horrible throughout history, but so is everybody else, you know. Genghis Khan did a whole number on humanity. It's like 1 out of 3 people today has Genghis Khan DNA in them. Now, why do you think that is? Yeah. Because he spread his DNA by force. So it's like, you can really, history is subjective, in my opinion. You know, who the bad guy is and who the good guys are, and it's all subjective. Obviously, there's some universal baddies. I'll be the baddies. You know. But, you know, in 2004, if you would have asked me who the bad guy was in the GWAT, I would have told you. And in 2004, if you went to some, you know, Arab person in the Middle East and asked them who the bad guys are, I'm sure they would have told you too. So, like I said, it's all subjective. So we got our goofy little singer here, singing away on his microphone there. Should make this dark too. It would be nice, though, to see everybody get along so that we can, you know, focus our attentions as a race on, you know, other shit that matters. You know, it would be nice to get out into space and start colonizing other worlds. And then at least then, it's like, if you want to have a world that's only Islam or a world that's only Christianity, then do it then. But, like, right now, we need to, this is a practice planet, you know? We gotta perfect stuff here and then get out into the cosmos and do it. That's my silly opinion, though. I don't think it's too far-fetched to think, you know, wow, people could get along? No way. I guess way. Crazy. It's craziness. What do you mean getting along? Not gonna get along with that swine? It's like, why not? Who cares? If aliens land, they're not gonna care. Oh, you're an American? I guess I can't touch you. Oh, you're whatever? I guess I can't. No, aliens are gonna vaporize all of us. And then what? Then we're all just vaporized. And then there's nothing you can do. Yep. Christmas is almost here, thank God. Then it can be over with and be done with. My kid's bugging the shit out of me about everything all the fucking time, and yikes, you know? It's just like, holy smokes, man. So sick of it. I get it now. I get why all the adults, when, you know, hate Christmas. When you're a kid, you know, they're like, oh God, it's Christmas time. I get it. I get it. Ever since I got custody of my kid a few years back, it's like I totally get it. New bibs, new jacket, new boots, new backpack, new wardrobe every year, new tennis shoes a couple times a year. Heavens forbid if they want to play sports, watch out. You know, school supplies, every holiday. It's like, holy shit. Man, it's a true story. Kids, man, they cost a lot of fucking money. I don't even know what to say. But they make your life so much better, you know, they're so enriching and all that shit. They're so enriching and all of that stuff, man. It's so great. Kids, yay. No, for reals though, they're not bad. They grow on you. It's weird. Like when you first have them, you're like, what the hell is this thing? But like I said, after a little time, you start they kind of start growing on you. You're like, well, I guess I'll feed it and change it and stuff and protect it from the world. My kid hasn't told me he hates me yet, so I mean, that's good. Hopefully he doesn't. I'm a pretty cool dad. I'm pretty chill. You know, I've had custody of him for like, I don't know, going on 4 years now. And, you know, it's been a pretty chill time, and you know, nothing against the ladies, but I think a boy needs a man. Definitely needs a man in his life. So, like, if you're married, that's great. If you can keep that going, that's great. But honestly, if it's up to me, I think a boy belongs with a man at a certain point in his life. That's just my opinion. And I never had a dad, and it kind of messed me up as a kid. And to this day, I'm still, you know, don't really care for male authority figures. All sorts of shit, you know. Stuff that he shouldn't have to be dealing with, you know. And the world these kids are growing up in is a different one than I grew up in, you know. But yeah, I really do believe that. Boys need a man in their life. At a certain point. You know? That's all. But nothing against all the moms out there raising men, you know, and I'm sure you can do it. And that's not really what this is about. It's more of it's just, you know, it takes a man to show somebody how to be a man, you know, just like it takes a woman. If I had a daughter, I couldn't show her how to do certain stuff. You know, I couldn't do it. I wouldn't know what to do. So it's like, it just makes sense. That's all. That's all I have to say about that. And I think my son, you know, he's definitely had it a lot better than I did at his age. You know, at his age with no dad around, and the only dad I did have was an alcoholic and a, you know, piece of shit. So it's like, you know, I would have been better off not having anything around when I was a kid rather than the thing I did have around. a couple things I had around, you know. That's okay though. That's not what this is about. But yeah, you know, because of that, a big part of me has wanted to be a better father, as good a one as I can be. I wouldn't be trying any of this YouTube stuff. I wouldn't be as focused on my book, doing my book, or any of that stuff if I didn't have my kid. I wouldn't. I wouldn't be on it as much as I am. That's all I'm saying. You know, the drive to do it wouldn't be as great as it is. You know, now I'm like, I gotta do this for my kid every day, you know. I haven't missed a day of posting since I started doing this, you know, a few months ago. Doesn't sound like a long time, but, you know. And in just the last couple months, I've almost doubled my followers, which is awesome. And I'm just sticking with it, you know. I figured out how to do the kick thing on my phone, even though my Linux-based computer is kind of a pain in the butt and it's making it difficult for me to get kick on my computer. I'm able to do it on my phone, and I'm just going to live stream the same way I'm doing right now. Talking and rambling while I'm drawing, at least for a while, until I make a little money or whatever, and I can buy a dedicated streaming computer and phone or whatever I need. So that way you guys can have this image of me drawing, but then you can have, you know, me on the screen as well, and I can answer the chat and stuff like that. So, but yeah, I wouldn't be doing any of that stuff to the degree I am without my son, without him inspiring me to do so, and without just wanting to do so, because, you know, I'm trying to be a good role model in my kid's life in a lot of ways. You know, I quit drinking because of my kid. I wasn't really drinking a lot. Give me 1 second. Wasn't really drinking a lot, but I was drinking, you know, having a nightcap every night. Nice stiff drink every night. You know, and just... There's just one more habit I didn't need to have. And one day you asked me, why do you drink? Dad, it's stupid. You're always telling me how stupid it is. Because, you know, the parent in me is like, don't drink, it's stupid. While I'm having a drink, you know. So I just stopped drinking one day. Poured out the booze I had in my fridge and called it good. And like I said, I wasn't really drinking that bad. I've drank way worse in my life, believe me. But I just told myself, like, what the hell? Why? Why are you even doing it? You know, it's just another thing that gets in the way. Another habit. You know, trying to do right by your kid. Then you should practice what you preach, you know? If you tell them it's stupid, then show them. So I did. You know, I was taking caffeine pills for a long time because I didn't like the taste of coffee. I didn't like how it made me want to take a piss all the time. But those things are horrible for your guts and everything. And one day, because of the kid, I stopped doing that too. For one thing, they cost money. They're getting harder to find. And, you know, I just didn't want to do it anymore. I figured, you know, I'm trying to do stuff to eliminate risk from my life so that I can be there for my son. Quit bartending, you know? If you don't know this, if you're not aware, if you're a bartender and somebody gets in like an accident or something, and they can prove you overserved them, which usually doesn't take much. They're just like, well, he died in an accident, so you overserved him. You know, it can really fuck your life up and ruin your life. And I've known a few people that that's kind of thing has happened to. And, you know, if you're any kind of bartender, you'll know what I'm about to say is the truth. If you bartend at like a hole-in-the-wall type place, you know, with regulars, not like a freaking TGI Fridays or something, but, you know, a hole-in-the-wall place with regulars that you know, a lot of the rules kind of go out the window. You know, regulars think they can do whatever they want. I pay the bills around here, that kind of thing. Well, it's hard being in charge of people, especially in like unruly areas, you know, where people are just unruly. And the last bartending gig I had was in a place just like that, a town of unruly people that prided themselves on being, you know, rebellious and unruly, even the old people in the town. And it was impossible. It was either be a Nazi and do my job, oh, that shitty bartender that cuts me off after I've had 15 drinks, you know, or quit and keep my good name. So that's what I did. I quit and I kept my good name. And yeah, it's hard to, you know, just like right before that happened, right before I quit, there was another bar in the town I'm in where the bartender almost got busted. But luckily, with outdoor camera, they were able to prove that a guy came in there and got, you know, they served food too, and he ordered some dinner and was waiting for it. And he had one shot and one beer in a little less than an hour. And he left the bar, and then about an hour later, he crashed. He clipped another person, and then he crashed and died on a corner, on this notorious corner in my area that kills people all the time when they're stone sober. But he had a bottle of whiskey in his vehicle, and he had been drinking after the bar, you know. So luckily they were able to prove that, you know, because he came out of the bar and took a few swigs of his bottle right there, you know, and you could see it on the camera. And then he drove off and went to another bar while his roast beef got cold in the car, you know, and then drove home and clipped a guy. But I'm just saying, you know, what if they didn't have camera? They would have just been like, well, you did it, so you're going to jail. And it's like, when I got custody of my kid, I could no longer justify taking that risk. So I quit bartending. Took a big hit money, like financially wise. But it was good. It was for the best. And I don't miss it at all. If you bartended before, then you know that being a bartender has a shelf life. There's a shelf life to bartending. You know, I'm in my 40s.